We have a 13-year-old swimmer who presents with left shoulder pain and has been to several different practitioners and hasn't gotten better. Left shoulder, left lats, those continue into the diagonal into the thoracolumbar fascia and the right glute. If there's a weak link along the back functional myofascial chain from the lat all the way through on the diagonal through the thoracolumbar fascia into the opposite hip, if we see a weak link in that right glute, that will create an excessive load in the left shoulder. So let's see what we discover on his 3D scan.
This patient's 3D movement scan shows us his posture from all angles. So looking from the side view here, we see this black line representing his posture, and here is the white plumb line representing a neutral optimal posture. His center of mass is excessively forward, it's anterior, and his hips are far forward of his ankles and shoulders. So essentially he is leaning forward into those hip joints and his glutes are not working. We also see a far forward head posture, creating excessive stress and tension through his neck muscles, his shoulders, and actually even all the way down from the bottom of his feet here too. And we did notice that he has excessive pronation and flat feet. When the body is leaning this much forward, it's excessively, unnecessarily loading the entire posterior chain of the body to resist gravity. We're also seeing here a rotation through his pelvis towards the left. So the positive number on the right is showing that the right hip is going forward. And again, that puts the glute and hip muscles in a less than optimal length tension relationship to use them effectively. Looking in the frontal plane now, we see that his knees are excessively adducted in towards the midline. And again, that puts the glutes in a position where he's not able to use them as well as he could. He is favoring the left side a lot more. His center of mass is shifted over onto that left side, and he's not giving his right glute a chance to work. In right single leg stance, we require proximal hip stability in order to maintain stability through the knees as well as the ankles. What we're noticing here is a lot of knee instability due to that lack of hip stability. What he has to do now is compensate with a lot of trunk movement, putting more stress through that back functional line that connects to his opposite shoulder. So the instability in his right hip is also present in dynamic movements too, where we're asking that hip to work as he's moving through different functional patterns. So when he's swimming, he needs to be able to have the power through that right glute in order to propel him through the water. And we're seeing here that when we're loading that hip, it's insufficient and causing a lot of dynamic knee stability in an S-shaped curve. So that's quite a bit of instability with a total of 10-degree valgus force medially. That places a lot of unnecessary stress, especially through the medial aspect of the knee, the patellar tendon. The optimal angle that we want to stay below is 8 degrees of knee valgus. Over time, this chronic instability in the knee will not be happy for the hamstrings, the patellar tendons, his Achilles tendons. So not only is he dealing with a left shoulder issue right now, if he continues swimming this way without addressing his right hip stability, he may start to develop knee pain, ankle pain, foot pain as well. And we're also seeing a right lean through his trunk, placing excessive stress into his back as well, and the continuation of that back functional line through his left shoulder. So in his left squat here, we still see that dynamic knee valgus coming from lack of left hip stability. However, the biggest difference between the left and the right side is that his trunk is not compensating for the instability in the hip, meaning he's not placing as much load and tension through that opposite shoulder. In summary, in order to propel him through the water as he's swimming, he is excessively overusing and overloading that left shoulder due to lack of power and stability in his hip, which is a huge driver through the posterior chain.